I demand... What? You say you brought bones of one of our ancestors. Stupid Imperials, they need to learn to leave things as they are. Still, it is good that you have returned this to the Skull. Perhaps there is hope for you and your kind. You are welcome here for the moment, but there is much to atone for. I haven't done anything! The Imperials in their fort have brought nothing but harm to these lands. They cut the trees and dig the earth. They are wasteful, lazy, and careless. They have no comprehension of the oneness of the land. It is this oneness from which the Skull derive our strength, and the Imperials have defiled these lands. This is what gives the Skull power. It is the balance of our lands, the trees and the waters, wolf and bear. The Imperials have no respect for this balance, and we pay the price. Through their carelessness, the Imperials have upset the natural order, the oneness of the land. This is their nature. It must be balanced once again, and the Allmaker appeased. I wish for you to make things right, Goodlike. You will be the one to restore the power to the Skull. Okay. I don't really want to, but I have no choice. It is right that you do this, as it is your people who have caused the damage. They're not my people. I don't even know them. Anyway, speak with Coerced Wind-Eye in the Shaman's hut. He will give you further instructions. That's all I'm going to do. Shaman's hut. Shaman's hut. Shaman's hut. Shaman's hut. Shaman's hut. There we go.
Strange signs carried on the wind.
Shut up. Greetings, you wanderer. Why have you come to our village? I can tell you no more about this. If there's information, Hardfang will have it. Will he? Anyway, restore the power. Hardfang wishes for you to do this, does he? Then I will assist you. There is a ritual that must be completed. On Solheim you will find 6 standing stones, each representing one of the 6 gifts of the Allmaker. At each of these stones a ritual must be completed. Once the ritual of the gifts is complete, oneness should be restored. It would be too much for any knot of the Skull to remember. Here, take this. It will explain the rituals and guide you on your way. This book may be of some use to you as well. You are to remain with the Skull. You should understand our beliefs. Really don't care.
You were to perform the ritual of the gifts. I hope your way has been easy.
Ritual of the gifts. I really don't care. Fine, let's see what this... Degadar's plans now. Location of the stones. Oh, well this is like the most useful thing you ever given to me, so... I'm slightly less pissed. Slightly. Story of Eivor Songsinger. Oh dear. Sit quietly, child, and listen, for the story I tell you is a story of the ages. But what is it, grandfather? Is it a story of heroes and beasts? The grandfather looked patiently at the child. He was growing into a fine boy. Soon he would see the value in the stories, the lessons that were taught to each generation. Just listen, child. Let the story take root in your heart. In a time before now, long before now, when the Skull were new, there was peace in the land. The sun was hot. What? As opposed to cold, as it is right now, as you can see, is basically an icicle in the sky. Anyway, the crops grew long, and the people were happy in the peace that the Allmaker provided. But the Skull grew complacent and lazy, and they took for granted the lands and all the gifts the Allmaker had given them. They forgot, or chose not to remember, that adversary is always watching, and that he delights in tormenting the Allmaker and his chosen people. And so it was that the adversary came to be among the Skull. The adversary has many aspects. He appears in the unholy beasts and the incurable plague. At the end of the seasons, you will know him as Tartag, the World Devourer. But in these ages he came to be known as the Greedy Man. What the hell? The Greedy Man, that is what we call him, for to speak his name would certainly bring ruin on the people. lived among the skull for many months. Perhaps he was once just a man, but when the adversary entered into him, he became the greedy man, and that is how he is remembered. It came to be one day that the powers of the skull left them. Its strength left the arms of the warriors, and the shaman could no longer summon the beast to their side. The elders thought that surely the Allmaker was displeased, and some suggested that the Allmaker had left them forever. It was then that the greedy man appeared to them and spoke. "You of the skull have grown fat and lazy. I have stolen the gifts of your Allmaker. I have stolen the oceans, so you will forever know thirst. I have stolen the lands and the trees and the sun, so your crops will wither and die. I have stolen the beasts, so you will go hungry, and I have stolen the winds, so you will live without the spirit of the Allmaker. And until one of you can reclaim these gifts, the skull will live in misery and despair, for I am the greedy man, and that is my nature." And then the greedy man disappeared. The members of the skull spoke for many days and nights. They knew that one of them must retrieve the gifts of the Allmaker, but they could not decide who he should be. "I cannot go," said the elder, "for I must stay to lead the skull and tell our people what is the law." "I cannot go," said the warrior, "for I must protect the skull. My sword will be needed in case the greedy man "No, he won't. He didn't even attack you at all." "I cannot go," said the shaman, "for the people need my wisdom. I must read the portents and offer my knowledge." It was then that a young man called Eva lifted his voice. He was strong of arm and fleet of foot, though he was not yet a warrior of the skull. "I will go," said Eva, and the skull laughed at his funny voice. "Hear me out," the boy continued. "I am not yet a warrior, so my sword will not be needed. I cannot read the portents, so the people will not seek my counsel. And I am young, and not yet wise in the ways of the law. Also, you hate my voice, so I want to leave this place, and leave you all to die. Also, I will retrieve the gifts of the Allmaker from the greedy man, and use them for myself." Ha 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 ha! The skull thought on this briefly, and decided it was really funny, so they let him go. He left the village in the next morning to retrieve the gifts. Ivar first set out to retrieve the gift of water, so he traveled to the Waterstone. It was there the Allmaker first spoke to him. "Travel west to the sea, and follow the swimmer to the waters of life." So Eva walked to the edge of the ocean, and there was the swimmer, a black hawker sent from the Allmaker. The swimmer dove into the waters and swam very far, and far again, and even further. Eva was strong, though, and he swam hard. He followed the swimmer to a cave, swimming deep and deeper, his lungs burning and his limbs exhausted. At last he found a pocket of air, and there in the dark he found the waters of life. Gathering his strength, he took the waters and swam back to the shore. Upon returning to the Waterstone, the Allmaker spoke. "You have returned the gift of water to the skull. The oceans again will bear fruit, and their thirst will be quenched." Eva then travelled to the Earthstone, and there Allmaker spoke to him again. "Enter the cave of the hidden music, and hear the song of the earth." So Eva travelled north and east to the cave of the hidden music. He found himself in a large cavern, where the rocks hung from the ceiling and grew from the ground itself. He listened there and heard the song of the earth, but it was faint. Grabbing up his mace, he struck the rocks of the floor in time with the song, and the song grew louder. Basically, he caused resonance, and so he could hear it, until it filled with a cavern in his heart. Then he returned to the Earthstone. "The gift of the earth is with the skull again," said the Allmaker. "The lands are rich again and will bear life." Eva was tired as the sun burned him. The trees offered no shade, and there was no wind to cool him. Still he travelled on to the beast rock, and the Allmaker spoke. "Find a good beast and ease his suffering." Eva travelled through the woods of the Isinfir for many hours, until he heard the cries of a bear from over the hill. As he crested the hill, he saw the bear, a farmer's arrow piercing its neck. He checked the woods for the farmer, for that is what they were, though some say they are not, and finding none, approached the beast. He spoke soothing words and came upon it slowly, saying, "Good beast, I mean you no harm. The All-Maker has sent me to ease your suffering." Hearing these words, the bear ceased his struggles and started laughing at Eivor's voice, and then laid his head at Eivor's feet. Eivor grasped the arrow and pulled it from the bear's neck. Using the little nature magic he knew, Eivor tended the wound, though it took the last bit of his strength. As the bear's wound closed, Eivor slept. When he awoke, the bear stood over him, and the remains of a number of the farmer were strewn about. He knew that the good beast had protected him during the night. He travelled back to the beast rock, the bear by his side, and the All-Maker spoke to him again. "You have returned the gift of the beast. Once again, the good beasts will feed the skull when they are hungry, clothe them when they are cold, and protect them in times of need." Eivor's strength had returned, so he travelled on to the tree stone. Though the good beast did not follow him, when he arrived, the All-Father spoke to him. "The first trees are gone and must be replanted. Find the seed and plant the first tree." Eivor travelled again through the Herstang forest, searching for the seeds of the first tree, but he could find none. Then he spoke to the tree spirits, the living trees. They told him that the seeds had been stolen by one of the farmer, for they are the servants of the adversary, and this farmer was hiding them deep in the forest, so that none would ever find them. Eivor travelled to the deepest part of the forest, and there he found the evil farmer surrounded by lesser tree spirits. Eivor could see that the spirits were in his thrall, that he had used the magic of the seeds, and spoken their secret name. Eivor knew he could not stand against such a force, and that he must retrieve the seeds in secret. Eivor reached into his pouch and drew out his flint. Gathering leaves, he started a small fire outside the clearing where the farmer and the ensorcelled spirits milled. All the Skal know the spirits' hatred of fires, for the fires ravage the trees they serve. At once, the nature of the spirits took hold, and they rushed to quell the flames. During the commotion, Eivor snuck behind the farmer and snatched the pouch of seeds, stealing away before the evil being knew they were gone. When Eivor returned to the tree stone, he planted the tree in the ground, and the All-Maker spoke to him. "The gift of the trees is restored. Once again, the trees and plants will bloom and grow and provide nourishment and shade." Eivor was tired, for the sun, which was stolen and therefore couldn't have possibly burned him anyway, thus proving that Eivor was actually a vampire, who could only go around the land because the sun was stolen. Anyway, the winds could not cool him yet, so he rested briefly in the shade of the trees. His legs were weary and his eyes heavy, for he hadn't consumed any blood in a long time. But he continued on, travelling to the sunstone. Again the All-Maker spoke. "The gentle warmth of the sun is stolen, so now it only burns. Free the sun from the halls of Penumbra." Penumbra? Oh, Jesus. And so Eivor walked west over the frozen lands until he reached the halls of Penumbra, where crazy shit happens. The air inside was thick and heavy, and he could see no farther than the end of his arm. Still, he felt his way along the walls, though he heard the shuffling of feet and knew that this place held the unholy beasts who would tear his flesh and eat his bones. For hours he crept along until he saw a faint glow far at the end of the hall. There, from behind a sheet of perfect ice, came a glow so bright he had to shut his eyes, lest they be forever blinded. He plucked the flaming eye from one of the unholy beasts and threw it at the ice with all his might. A small crack appeared in the ice, then grew larger. Slowly the light crept out between the cracks, widening them, splitting the ice wall into pieces. With a deafening crack, the wall crumbled, and the light rushed over Eivor and through the halls. He heard the shrieks of the unholy beasts as they were blinded and burned. He ran out of the halls following the light and collapsed on the grounds outside. When he was able to rise again, the sun again warmed him, and he was glad for that. Strangely enough, though, it didn't burn him anymore. He traveled back to the Sunstone, where the Old Maker spoke to him. The gift of the sun is the skulls once again. It will warm them and give them light. Also, I cured your vampirism. Eva had one final gift he had to recover, the gift of the winds, so he traveled to the Windstone far on the west coast of the island. When he arrived, the Old Maker spoke to him, giving him his final task. Find the greedy man and release the wind from its captivity. So, Eva wandered the land in search of the greedy man. He looked in the trees, but the greedy man did not hide there, nor did he hide near the oceans or the deep caves, and the beasts had not seen him in the dark forest. Finally, Eva came to a crooked house, and he knew that here he would find the greedy man. And the greedy man told to him, "Hey-ho, hey-ho, to the workshop we go. My uncle's candy is so sweet, it's such a yummy winter treat." Eva was very confused of what was going on. He didn't know what to do. And, well, he quickly grabbed the man's bag and tore it open. The winds rushed out with gale force, sweeping the greedy man up and carrying him off, far from the island. Eivor breathed in the winds and was glad. He walked back to the Windstone, where the Old Maker spoke to him a final time. "You have done well, Eivor. You, the least of Skull, have returned my gifts to them. The greedy man is gone for now, but he will be back, and he will continue to make the cookies with skooma. Anyway, he should not trouble your people again in a lifetime. Your Old Maker is pleased. Go now and live according to your nature. And do something about your funny voice, will you?" Then Eivor started going back to the Skull Village to show off all the things he suddenly had, because he was so often. "And then what happened, grandfather?" "What do you mean, child? He went home and, well, I don't really know. He must have then shown off his great feats, and the Skull were very impressed or something. So he forgave them and lived with him ever after." No, when he returned to the village, was he made a warrior, shaman, lead the battle? What did he do? I don't know. Oh, that's right. He joined the circus. What? That's a terrible ending. Why would he join the circus? The old man laughed and got up from his chair. Well, why do you think? What a strange story. Okay, so I have to go do some porker catching. Alright, let's see this map. Plans to defeat Dagador. God damn it, they always get in the way. Which one was it? I know the wind was last. Beast, 3 was the seed, sun was the burning, earth, I don't remember. Oh, was the song, water. It was the first one. That's what he did. He went to the water. He went to the waters of life. Let's go to the water.